All right, we're now live on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to say,
Move your camera up a little bit
all right, hold on just a
because
second.
you're chopping off your top of your head.
Chopping off the top of my head.
Does it
What?
hurt?
Yes, it does.
No, yeah, it doesn't have to be that high. Yeah, you're good.
All right, looks like YouTube is now good. All right, so it is preparing it. Hi, everyone. I'm Sequoia, and this is Matthew Klee, and we are here to talk about taking your practice to an um, online offering. And if you are a healer out there and would like to have a conversation with us, you're welcome to join our YouTube live, our Zoom call, so that we can support you in pivoting your business online. You can see in the comments how to reach us. So Matthew, let's talk about being a healer and going from having a practice face to face with a client who needs support, and now moving a practice to be online or remotely. What kinds of things are you seeing people are needing as a healer to be a remote healer instead of face to face healer?
It's a stressful and difficult time for those who are used to direct face-to-face contact, certainly. And clearly, there are a lot of people. There's the monetary aspect, but what I find is the um, techniques you use and the approach it's different. And if you haven't had any experience with remote healings as an energy healer, then it's bewildering. And certainly there's a lack of confidence, and information is all sorts of different approaches perhaps, and it's hard to focus on something direct and simple and get used to it and practice and get confident, and trust, basically. I'm also, I'm a massage therapist, and that you can't do that really remotely, right? So my interest is in to say, what are the aspects of getting a therapeutic massage that you can do remotely? That's kind of what I'm trying to work out. And the relaxation part, the comfort, and maybe the remotely directed self massage, which is happening in real time but remotely with the client. So those are the types of issues. And if you think about all of the different energy healing modalities that are out there, you and I share some similar ones, and then we each have our own slightly different approaches. And I'm sure as many healers as there are out there, each has his or her own forte or specialty. And immediately you have questions. Is a remote version of whatever I do, is it can I do it by following the same procedure as the other one, or not?
Right.
So these, if you're just getting into it, this is anxiety that somehow works against you. It prevents you from stepping into it.
Right.
That's the
Right.
biggest issue, right?
So a lot of healers that are out there right now are probably having, a few problems, right? A problem number one is my business has come to a halt because I can no longer do my healings on lockdown from my office. So number one, how do I make money now as a healer without being able to be an essential service during lockdown, how do I make money while I can't practice face-to-face healings? So a lot of people that you and I know from the healing modalities and the groups of healers that we've worked with, luckily you and I have been running a healing circle for about a year that's a remote healing circle. And I think a lot of people don't even know that healings can be done remotely,
Right.
which is why it's really great that we're having this conversation now, because
You don't
before
have a choice.
right, we don't have a choice. And before I was trained in remote healings, I always thought I had to go to an office to have the healings that I thought I needed for whatever ailments I was dealing with. So, number one, everyone out there, yes, we can get healings from a practitioner remotely. And this is a perfect time for healers to start exercising that muscle of getting, doing healings for your clients remotely and see how effective it is. Number one, a lot of the things that we do in the office is supporting your client by doing some kind of healing coaching kind of practice as part of our modalities. Yes, some of our modalities are probably working on the physical body, but a lot of the work that you're going to do with a client is to support them through whatever it is that they're dealing with. So that's in the realm of a mentor, like a healing mentor or a healer coach. And there's always going to be that aspect of it, right?
And let's think about why do people seek alternative health practitioners, energy healers, massage therapists in the first place? And a lot of it is dealing with stress, right? And so it's especially in the Western world and the U.S. It's stress of everyday life and everything, and that then brings on manifests as issues in the body and the mind, because a lot of the stress is what we put on ourselves with our expectations, and there's all of that emotional stuff that gets mixed in there, right? And so there people seek alternative health practitioners to help us with those issues, and it all of a sudden didn't go away, right? It's because it just switches to, oh, I don't have a job anymore, or will I have a job when this is over? Where's my paycheck coming from? And oh my God, I used to like this person when I only had to live with them 6 hours a day or 4 hours a day,
Right.
watching television. So, and now it's 24/7, right? So it shifts. And in a lot of way, it's moving that stress. And so now when we don't have access to the face-to-face, the problem is we don't need it less. We need something we still could use and benefit from. And as healers, with whatever modality we have, if we can shift that to a mode that is helpful and remote, it not only helps us switch our revenue stream from an office oriented one to some other form, but it helps our clients. We can still make a difference for our clients. And anyone who's an energy healer, the energy healing is as much for you to share your gifts and participate in the healing as it is for the clients, right? So
Right.
if you
That's
don't get
actually a
that,
part. Yeah, that's a part that's actually one of my favorite things about being a healer. And I love that you brought it up, because one of the benefits of doing remote healings is that you have to bring
best self, right?
your best self to it, but you have to do the healing on yourself so that you can send the healing to the person that you're actually doing it.
Mhm.
And so you literally have to be doing the practices that you are delivering for the client. Now, this is true of any healing practice anyway. Like, you're not going to go to, you know, a nutritionist that has terrible nutrition for their own life, but is telling you you should be doing all these other things. The same is true in meditation healings or energy healing or, you know, exercise healing, yoga healing,
Emotional
emotional
blocks.
healings,
Yeah.
relationship healings. Like, the person you go to, the healer that you're going to, needs to be having this as a regular practice for themselves, so that they can, in our terms of energy healing, so that the healer can hold the frequency or the state of that healthy practice, so that you can then, as the healer, template for your client what it feels like to be in this healing state, so that their body can actually attune themselves
Right.
to
Resonate. Yeah.
the vibration that you're actually giving them. Because if they can't actually hold that frequency, they're going to go back to the past, right?
Right.
So
And that's
as
what we're trying to do. I think in the ideal situation, ideally what you want to do is, at the end of your session, is that the benefits that would have occurred face to face, that the client and you receive those the equal or better. Sometimes, you know, and the fact is, I mean, there have been several that we've been involved with, but also individually, where we've told each other, is, you know, that was amazing, and it was because we weren't physically there with the distractions of the room, distractions of whatever the
the physical
physical
body of the
aspect.
person.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're now totally in the intuitive
Yeah.
aspect, which makes you put a larger percentage of your awareness on that that vibrational connection, and and it's more effective even. And that's kind of surprising the first couple of times that your client reflects back. Yeah, wow, that's the best healing I've had. And yet you feel kind of bad because, well, they used to have a face-to-face healing with you before. What did I do
Right.
wrong that time, right?
Right.
But it supports that it's not only possible to have this remote healing, but it can be as good or sometimes even better than if you're face-to-face, just because of the mechanisms of how you do it. If
Yeah.
and you know
Yeah.
that's the thing, is to know the approach, apply a few simple principles, and trust.
So now we're actually talking about the nuts and bolts of what we're actually doing in a remote healing. And it would be good for people to kind of get to know,
Hmm.
you know, who you and I are and why we're talking about this. And because
Yeah.
we're really talking about metaphysics and quantum physics,
Hmm.
right? So quantum physics and metaphysics is really the basis of how we are able to do remote healings that we're talking about. So can you talk a little bit about physics, since you are a doctor of physics?
Yeah, it's actually analytical chemistry, but
Yes,
I
yes,
a lot
yes.
of science in there. Yeah, so being a scientist, there's there's a uh, there's a potential conflict, right? Because we're talking about esoteric stuff that really is not scientifically provable, in the sense that you can't measure. When we talk about frequencies and connections, you can measure radio waves, and you can talk about microwaves, and you talk about light and sound, and you can measure it and feel it, see it, hear it, with either your physical senses, or with scientific instruments. And what we're talking about in energy healing is not measurable. So as a scientist, there's that aspect that is not there, and therefore easily questioned if you haven't experienced it. And so I think there's also, if there are many people who misuse some of the concepts that um, uh, are talking about quantum physics and extending it beyond what the actual definitions are. And so the kind of core that most people are seeking in any and the reason that people do this in our field of energy healing is we know it works. We know there's a benefit. We've felt it. We've had clients who feel it either in person or remotely, right? And we want to expand. It's our nature. We want to provide. We want to help. We want to enlighten, those who might benefit from it. And if they're questioning it from whatever background of skepticism or uncertainty, if one could have a scientific explanation for it, it makes it more accessible. And so that's all good unless it's overextended. So what I'm going to do is try to get it down to a more or less simplified generalization that many people put into quantum physics. And in science, energy waves and physical energy is energy, and it goes in waves and sine waves, and they generally go straight unless they're diverted by gravity or other types of things, or prisms and get separated. So all energies going kind of straight in a wave of different frequency, depending on what it is. And so something generates and something can receive and sense that energy. But here's the strange thing that gets into quantum physics. The energy it also has an aspect which is a particle, and there can be conversion between energy and particle. And so I'm going to kind of stop because now's when a lot of energy healers will go into an extension from that general truth that particles and energy can interchange. I'm going to stop there and just say there is that connection. And through that connection, we as living beings are built with the ability to feel, sense, be aware of, and benefit from a connection that's not a physical connection. So even though we're 6 feet apart or a mile apart or 100 miles or across the world, we can, in our mind, get a connection with some specific other person. Whether, and the easiest way to think of this is the parent and child who just knows there's something wrong, just feels, something just happened to somebody they're close to. This happened also with my best friend growing up. He's my friend, but he's my best friend. And he suffered, I'm going to get emotional, but it just occurred to me, this is my most powerful a personal awareness of this kind of connection. He suffered from AIDS and was in the hospital, not doing well. I was in the laboratory working at a company I was working at the time, and I had in my hand a tray of little samples, and I was walking through the lab, and all of a sudden a wave hit me, and I stopped, and I lost all control. Stuff dropped out of my hand, and it was like an overwhelming sorrow. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it just dropped. And I looked around to see if anyone saw me, cleaned up my mess and everything. And I couldn't even explain. I had no idea what that was at the time. Later, I learned a couple of days later that my friend, that's the moment he died.
Wow.
Time of death.
Wow.
And so, that's a negative example, but there is an example of a connection that one can have that's so profound that there's this awareness. And there's like stories of parents, or you walk down a street and you're going to turn left, and then something tells you don't turn left. You don't want to do that. Go straight. Or in your car driving and you go, maybe I should just slow down. And then all of a sudden some kid runs out or something, right? So these are there's these connections. And where do they come from? What's the connection part? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a connection that you feel, And any other scientific explanation, any type of words or anything that goes on, the most important thing is, and the metric I use is, um, is the evidence is in your personal experience. Can you feel the connection? And when you feel the connect at the end of the session, do you feel better? Does your client feel better? That's what we're after. And any other scientific explanation, it doesn't matter what the scientific explanation is. And someday maybe we'll have the little chi meter or the other intuition, periscope or whatever. But right now it's just feel it. What
Yep.
we're talking about is feelings. We're talking about health, spirit.
Sensations.
Yeah. And so that's what we're after.
Right. So it's really great that you shared that story, because last night I was stepping back a minute. So while Matthew is a healer of multiple different modalities, from his scientific work to being a massage therapist, and also being a qigong senior master. My side of this conversation comes from the shamanic realm, based in intuition, connected to nature, and the messages I get are intuitively downloaded by my experiences connected to nature, and finding the answers through a deep paying attention and curiosity of what nature does. And so last night before I was going to bed, I was doing a ceremony that I do before I go to bed. And I had a difficult conversation last night with my daughter's dad, and I was feeling great separation from my kid, which as a mother is very painful. And I was feeling a deep separation from her dad, and feeling that deep separation. At the same time, I am doing Facebook Lives of this book that I'm reading, and this book is all about how we are like God already, and doing anything that separates us more from being like God, or separating, or feeling like we're not connected to the other people on the planet, is the opposite of life, right? So there's
Certainly
life,
opposite of enjoyment of life.
right? Exactly. But there's life, and then there's death. There's light, and then there's dark. There's God, and then there's going away from God, or what this book says is uh, uh, a decision to receive for self alone, right? So separating yourself from all of nature and stuff. So anyway, I was doing the ceremony last night, and I just started weeping, just started crying, because I was really bitchy before I did this meditation ceremony. And my partner, I was irritated, and it was after I got off the phone with my ex-husband. And I had the realization as I'm sobbing, oh, this is what feeling separated from God feels like. This is what feeling separated from my child feels like, and not being able as a mom to make a difference with my child, where she could be happy and enjoy her life, and how badly I want her to have all of the healings and the knowledge that I teach everybody else. I want it for her more than anybody, right? Like,
Yeah,
not
sure.
that I don't want it for anybody else. I want it, like, this is what a mom feels like when they can't make a difference with their own kid. And you have kids, so I know that you know
Yeah,
this
yeah,
experience,
feel the
right?
same thing. Yeah.
Because they suffer too. And then I realized, oh shit, this is the way Mother Earth feels. This is how badly Mother Earth wants us as the human beings on this planet to get what destructive behaviors we have. And that I am, as a mother, just one, I'm connected with Mother Earth in that way, in that it feels very painful. Like I want so badly for the people of the planet to get that there are simple ways to stay healthy, stay strong, and to heal from anything that you've got going on. I don't care what it is that you've got going on, whether it's cancer or, my book is about erectile dysfunction and how I can help a husband and wife or partners to come back from, that kind of hit to a relationship. And I'm right now creating my next book for women in relationship, and I'm really starting to realize that separation between you and your partner that you've fallen deeply in love with, and you want to still be connected and feel that pull, like you're meant to be together, and all of these experiences are you like having permission to be exactly the way you are in relationship, to be appreciated for who you are right now, not who they want you to be tomorrow. Or it's very interesting because shamanically I heal people shamanically, and it's in the tradition of the Native Americans. So I've studied a lot of Native American shamanic therapies, but I've also studied tantric yoga shamanism. And tantra yoga isn't what most people think is tantra yoga. It's literally using the laws of the universe, the laws of nature, to uh, become the best human being that I can be in any relationship, whether it's a relationship with you, Matthew, is, colleagues, or whether it's a relationship at work, or a relationship with my healing clients, or my partner, or my child, or my ex-husband, right? So the same principles apply. And what we are saying on this call is there are a lot of techniques that all of the healers out there in the world who are used to doing face to face, we can save the planet, we can save our practices, we can save our clients by doing online remote healing. It's possible. You and I have run a healing circle for over a year, and we've had great results. And that's what we're wanting to teach people, is how to do remote healings so that you can, number one, be the healer of your own home, right?
Sure.
Because you got to put the
You're stuck with them for a few more weeks, right? So,
right. And we all have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's what a healer does. A healer
Sure.
does the healing practice on themselves, notices where you are not as healthy as possible, whether it's healthy in the mind or healthy in the body or healthy in the soul, and put the oxygen mask on first, heal yourself, hold that frequency and say, okay, now what's the important part is now sharing that with others. Because if you only keep it for yourself, then
that's not the point though, right? I mean, you
that's
do have
right.
to be healthy, but if you're not healthy isolated, right?
Right.
It's only when you're with the relationships outside yourself.
It only
and
becomes real when you share it outside yourself. It's
and
not real until it's like that old adage, if a tree falls over in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it really fall over?
yeah, to make a
Did it
sound,
really
right?
happen? Did the
And
sound actually happen? Right?
I think from the healer stand, the analogy that's just struck me is we often talk about healers as having gifts, right? And
Mhm.
each person has its own special gift, forte, right? It's not a gift unless you give it, right?
Oh, it's
Right.
so good.
So
That was so good.
wasn't that good?
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
love
So
it.
right. So
It's
you
true.
have you make your gift the best it can, but it's not till you give
Right.
it,
A gift
right?
isn't a gift
So
unless you give it
if you're not
away.
sharing your gift,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
it can be shared remotely. And there's some best practices, some ideas that we found very successful in doing that, right? And so we just want to share that.
Yeah, it's great. So, how can they get a hold of you if they're interested in working with you remotely?
Yeah, so my email is Matthew at chipower-innovations.com. So chi power is QIPOWER. That's the Chinese pronunciation for QI, chi. Chipower-innovations.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And if anybody's interested in working with me, both Matthew and my contacts are listed in the comments here. So you're welcome to reach out to Matthew or myself. And if you're looking to have a complimentary healer pivot, um, uh, uh, conversation with me so that I can help you kickstart your pivot, you can get on my calendar and let me know if you would prefer to work with Matthew, because I will pass that appointment over to him. And if you wanted to work with both of us, please feel free to say in the comments that you want to work with both of us. We are here to help healers pivot their practice from face to face to being in a remote online modality. And we are so excited to teach people how to do that, because it is really, I think, as you and I have just demonstrated, it's the
It's
future.
time.
It's time. It's the future. We don't have to drive places. It's actually, what's really cool is that it's just like um, doing a astral travel, right?
Yeah,
Which a
yeah,
lot of people have heard of astral travel. Well, guess what? Astral travel, doing healings, astral travel wise,
yeah,
is actually very powerful because the physical body is not in the way.
yeah.
We can
And
tap.
that's the goal. Yeah.
That is the goal. Awesome. Well, thanks,
Thanks.
Mr. Matthew.
Enjoyed it as
And
always.
thank you everyone who is watching this. And let us know if we can support you, because we are literally sharing this good news with all of you. All right. Talk to you all soon.